Folks. Hope you're having a good day. All right, trying to reset my phone here. Never goes. All right, 1 and 2. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pray, and I'm just going to give you a little kind of what's going on tonight, and then we're going to I'll explain everything. So here we go. Dear Lord, we thank you for today, Lord, and we ask you to bless this class tonight, Lord, as we just endeavor to be more like you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. um, so before we get into tonight's class, just a real quick thing. Next week, class starts at 5:30 for the next 3 weeks, because we'll have Easter and Beyond practice at 6:30. So at 6:30, class will end immediately, and then next week there'll be pizza. So instead of going out, if you're part of the class, you're not in Easter Beyond, you can still have fellowship. We'll just do it back there with the cast, and then group one will practice, and then when group one's done practicing, they'll go eat, and group two will come out and practice. If you're in both groups for the evening, then you'll eat at the end, and we'll save you some pizza. We'll see how that goes. uh, and then next we're going to start two new classes. One's called John Emotions That Destroy. There you go. He's been studying it for a while, and so it's going to be in the fireside room, and then in here and online will be the class. Okay, Every Thought Captive, and both of them are really good classes to take. The good news is you can all abandon me and go to John's class, and then you can watch my class online later. Both are really good. One deals specifically with one emotion, general anger, which comes out in a gazillion different ways in lives. The other one, what? Elizabeth's over there, yeah, and carry on. Okay. She's channeling her inner Jim tonight. Okay, so all right, and then in here we'll be doing the Every Thought Captive, and there's so many. It's so important to have our thoughts right, because that's how spiritual gifts can go wrong. We get our thoughts in the wrong way. So it'll be a really good follow up class. There'll still be time in that class to talk about spiritual gifts. They'll probably come up because it's I don't know about you. It's hard sometimes to keep every thought 100% captive. It's hard to do that. And so there'll be a really good 6-week follow-up class. It has a short video with really some thought-provoking things, and then we'll talk about them, and they will also tailor-made into spiritual gifts going from there. So we'll be doing that over the next couple weeks. That'll take us through 3 weeks in April and 3 weeks in May, because the end of March. No, yeah, 3 weeks of March and 3 weeks of April. Take us to May. There we go. There we go. Now I'm trying to figure it out, because in the middle we'll have Easter and Beyond. We won't have class those 2 Sundays because we have our Easter and Beyond on the Saturday night and Sunday morning, and we'll all be tired Sunday night. And then the next week at Easter, we don't typically have a class on Easter night, so you can spend it with your family. So we'll do 3 classes and then 3, and that'll take us to May. So we're going to be going on with that. And mine still hasn't come up yet. We're online, right, Misaka? Saka? Are you there? Are we online? Are we online? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, there we go. There it goes. I got to be able to see people who want to talk online. Okay. All right. So, but before we go on to actually talking about individual gifts, what will happen here in about 10 minutes? Oh, now I got to turn my sound down. I hear myself speak. Okay. All right. Don't want to do that. All right. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to break into, and around the room are all 24 different gifts of the Spirit, so you can go to the one you want to go to. And what'll happen is we'll let people talk to one another. I'll walk around, answer specific questions. It's good to talk to one another. If no one's in your section, I'll just kind of put maybe a bunch of you together, and once I see everybody go there, maybe start with that section. We'll see how it goes. Okay, this way people will be able to ask, or you could sit in the section and you can ask a specific question for the whole group. We'll see how that goes. Before we get to that, one of the things is with spiritual gifts, there's a question out there where it's gone around a few times. You may or may not have seen it, but it says, does Jesus look like this? It's a social post that goes around, and the question is, do we make Jesus in way our culture is, or do we make Jesus in the way he is? The thing about spiritual gifts is very important, is that we flow in them because that's Jesus flowing through us out to others in a very genuine way. Too many people are trying to make Jesus fit into the world rather than us fitting into his model for us. And a lot of people say it's kind of scary to use my gifts, or it's I don't know if I want to do that. But when you let the Spirit move through you, number one, you'll get satisfied because God, you'll be doing something that the Spirit, you feel the power moving through you to do that, which is just, it's hard to explain how that feels till you have it happen for the first time. And then you're like, I want it more, and you'll develop that. But it's very important to understand, though, that the gifts are there to help also bring everything back into Jesus. Now, the danger is you can have your gift and you can do whatever you want with your gift. Okay. People you can use it in the wrong way by not having that humble heart, having that with that. And you can go, well, this is what I do. And hey, you need to listen to me because of this. And remember, when the gift moves through you, do you have anything to do with the gift? No, that's the point, right? Your natural gifts you do, but your spiritual gifts are the Spirit helping you do something you can't do. And so the Spirit for him it's natural, for us it's not natural, but it goes, and we get to feel God moving with us, and you get to feel that uplift, you get that uplifted thing before anything else happens. So that's what's important. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to let you ask questions. You can move to a group. If someone has a question for the whole group about how something specifically works, I'm going to start with that first before we go to groups, and then and then, like I said, we go to the next two classes. If you have a question about a spiritual gift, it's real simple. Just these next two classes kind of tailor made to that. They'll help us stay with that. You can ask questions. You can come in here, whatever needs to be done. And so that's how we're going to be doing that class going forward. Okay. So, all right. So everybody understand. So what we're going to do now is, anybody have, like I said, I want to make sure I got all the general questions out of the way before we go specific. Does anybody have another question they'd like to know about the spiritual gifts for the whole class that grapple with before we break up? Or do you want to, that's what I want to know. I want to make sure we really talk through is what you need. This is for you, not for me. So anybody have a question? Yes, Suzanne. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, your gift isn't pastoring. Remember, preaching up in the pulpit's not pastoring. That has nothing to do with pastoring. That's actually deal with exhortation. Okay. All right. Pastoring is you're dealing with the everyday needs of people. You don't do that. You go, churches call you, you're a lay speaker. You go in and you leave. Right. So you're not pastoring those people. So that's not your gift. So with you, let's drill down some more. When I wrote it to you, I don't think your gift is exhorter either. Okay. Because last week you came up and you talked to me about, I taught you about ministry. You turned down, you told me what you wanted to be like Peter and Paul, which is great. By the way, someone else has stepped up to take that. Just so I know, Judy Vopel's our new missions coordinator, by the way. So she's going to be taking that up. She's meeting with Tuesday. I don't know if she knows what she's getting herself into, but it's also one of her gifts is the missionary thing. So that's pretty cool. But so let's take you for example, because you're trying to figure this out. So this is a good example for everybody, because she felt a call from God. Can I tell a little bit the story? I know you can correct me when I'm wrong, and I might ignore you, but no, I'm kidding. She was involved in the Methodist church, and then but you lay pastor different type of churches, and then when she came over to our church, because she was frustrated with the teachings of what was going on in the Methodist church. We've talked about that, and so she was coming to our Bible studies in the past, and she came and joined our church, and And then she said, "Hey, can I still lay pastor?" And I said, and I should have said no to that, but I did. But because lay pastor is the wrong thing. There's no such thing as a lay pastor. Lay pastor is a calling to a specific group of people, and you stay there. Okay, you don't go in and out in that. So that's but we're all learning on this journey. And I said, well, before I allow you to do that, you had to complete. She had to complete something, and then she completed it. But so every once in a while, she misses on Sunday morning. She would come on Saturday nights because in both faithful to the church and all that. But she would go in, and you would go, and the churches you go to, I'm glad you asked this question. The churches you go to, are they alive? Well, you can make a good, yeah, okay. They're not. They're pretty dead, right? Question, those churches you go to and those Methodist churches and that, do they have a call for salvation every week at their churches? They don't. Now, if you read my post online this week, if you want to find a real church, a real church should have, even if everybody in the room, you don't know if people can go in the church for 40 years, they might not really made a commitment for the Lord. You never know what's in their heart. Every week you should do that. And the second reason you should do that is because reason why I do Romans 10:9 almost every single week. Joanne says, you don't do it every week. Occasionally I forget, but it's rare that I do. But it is because then everybody in the church knows what to do when they want to lead someone to the Lord. Trust me, you don't know how to lead someone to the Lord coming here. You missed the point. I mean, I do it ad nauseum for a reason. So it kind of rubs off on people. That's how Alan led the 1/8 this last week to the Lord. And it's amazing what can happen when you're able to say that. He's like, yeah, I used Romans 10:9 and all that. And I'm like, that's cool. But it's very important to always put in front of them so we can be able to go out. Because, if you don't know how someone leads someone to the Lord, that should be the number one thing, right? So a lot of churches, they talk about it, but they don't lead people to the Lord. And a lot of churches, why baptism is important after you get saved. Well, churches that preach you can get baptized as a baby, almost none of them actually have an altar call every week or a time where they can give someone about Jesus. Now, here's the thing. Why don't they? Because once you get baptized, you're good. The Bible doesn't say that, right? Bible says that comes after you come and know the Lord. It's amazing how the devil gets these little, it looks good, but it's not good, type of thing. So with that being said, I've had, when I wrote yours, I was going to talk to you, but now I'm going to talk to you in front of everybody since you brought it up. When you go to these churches that really are spiritually dead, you don't really know if these people know Jesus. So your calling is to be the evangelist. When you go there, preach the message God gave you, but you're preaching. You're not pastoring. Do maybe remember, pastoring has nothing to do with that. Pastor has to do with, what I did last night going up to see Alan in the jail, going to see people in the hospital. When people want to talk to me after church for hours, or they want to send me a Facebook message and talk. My job is to be there to answer questions about things so you guys can live your life when you have a problem. There's no such thing as bothering me, okay? All right? You yesterday. Yeah, okay. And yesterday was, but that wasn't a pastoral thing. That you just needed she needed a credit card to go buy stuff for downstairs. And I was like, yeah. And, but see, when you go there and you said to me, when you took it after your spiritual gifts test 2 weeks ago, you said, I just want to be like Peter and Paul, right? So when you go to these places, you can actually get down to the point, you don't have to worry about messages now. You can get down to 3 or 4 messages because you go when you go to places, you're just supposed to go in there and tell them about Jesus. And then the next time you come in, you should have another salvation call until they all get saved or they kick you out. But you know what? If they don't get saved, nothing matters. You can have all the spiritual gifts you want, but until you get salvation knowledge of Jesus Christ, nothing else means a hill of beans. All of your gifts are to do one thing. It is to bring people into a better relationship with Jesus Christ. The spiritual gifts help disciple people, and they need help, or they need mercy, or they need a prophecy, or they need a healing. It's all designed to help the body of Christ get what you need. It's all part of the discipleship process. And so when you got says the gift of evangelist, you were called. You're called, but you're not called to be a pastor. You're not called to to have everybody call you people at 2:00 in the morning and say, drive to Bradford and pick me up. That's not your gifting. Okay. I don't think you want that gifting. No. Right. Okay. Very good. But you have the calling of the evangelist, and you have opportunities where people are asking you to come. So God's saying, and like I said, you came to me and you said, I just want to be like Peter and Paul. In Peter and Paul's ministry, before they become apostles, they're apostles, but when they're out there, their other gift, they're out there evangelizing, telling people about Jesus Christ. And you have an opportunity that, like, I can't. No, none of those churches are going to invite me in. They always think I'm crazy weird. Okay, right? Because they have an opinion about our church, right? But you get invited in. So guess what? You can go somewhere, and you can, and hey, does anybody here not know Jesus? And have, those churches aren't used to an altar call. I get that, but guess what? Just because they're not used to one doesn't mean they're not valid. Now, it takes somebody with guts to do that. Now, when you came up to me and said, I just want to be like Peter and Paul, and you were so excited, that was God confirming your gift and God saying light bulb moment on. So guess what you get to do? You get to go in there and you get to just do that. Now, here's the thing. If you don't do it, God will probably move it to somebody else, like we talked about. But I believe that's why I believe your spiritual gift is exactly right, based on what you want to do and based on what you're doing. And that's the problem with a lot of churches that have these like lay pastors that move around. You can't pastor somebody just showing up for an hour on Sunday morning and leaving, right? That's not shepherding. Okay, I'm going to go look at the sheep. Okay, for an hour, and I'm going to go back home for the other 167 hours of the week. Well, guess what? Sheep are wait, what will happen to regular sheep? Now imagine sheep that have a brain. That's us, humans. We need looked after a little bit more than that, right? We need to be open to them. That's what the pastor's job is. So you're not a lay pastor. You're not even a lay speaker. You're the evangelist being called to that area, and you go do that. And remember when Paul went to that area and Peter went to that area, then they set someone else to be the pastor of that church, and they moved on and going from there. And who knows? Maybe they get saved and they'll go, hey, well, we need. Then they'll realize they need somebody there. So the problem is they don't realize they need someone there all the time. Maybe someone that in that group be called to be pastoring, and then you could introduce them to me, and then I could train them, and they can go back there. I don't need any more churches. Johnny does, right, Johnny? No. Okay. All right. But that's the key. So does that make sense? You see, it that's what God is calling into. And when we get ready to move, you should probably go sit up here with Curtis, because that's his gifting. His is actually stronger than yours. So yeah, dude. Yeah, it's there. God never left you. All right. Anybody else have a question they'd like answered for everybody before we move on? This is for you. Yes, Greg. Go to your spiritual or natural one. Here's the deal. Whichever one you like to know more about. Now here's the thing. Once you move around, if there's a cluster in one spot, I might go over and ask that question. Maybe I'll interrupt it. We're going to see how it works. I don't know how it's all going to work out. If you're by yourself, I'll maybe you want to move. What we could do is like move around and then maybe say, hey, everybody move to this group, and then we can move 10 minutes later, let's see what works. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, when you move around, if some people say, well, I'm not sure what my natural gift is. Well, some people don't know that. Some people need clarification of what to do with that. So that's fine with that. Tonight is about, remember when I gave you the test, this is what I feel your natural gifts were, and then your spiritual gifts, it says what I think your spiritual gifts are. The test isn't the end all of it. But once you need to investigate things, ask questions. That's what we need to do. Anybody else have a question they want to ask before we move around? All right. So if you want to answer, now here's the thing. When you move around, there's more than one person in the group. Talk to each other what you think the gift's about. You'll be amazed that you don't always need me. Okay? My job is to help fine-tune things. It's great to learn from what? One another. And also, you might want to just go to a group because you want to just learn more about it, because that's fine too. Either way. There's no wrong answer here. Okay? The wrong answer is to go to the group that there is no group. That'd be the wrong answer tonight. Does that make sense? What? What, Johnny? What? I heard something. I heard, man, I'm going to read. Yeah. What, Johnny? You were practicing. Okay. All right. Oh, you have a question? Yes. Right. Okay. Okay. Ashley has a question. On her test, it showed a possibility that indicated it could be 2 gifts. Now, can you have more than one spiritual gift? Yes, you could. Now, is it possible you only have one of them? Yes. It is also possible that neither one is it, because I'm not perfect. The test is not perfect, but you might find some things out by that. What are the 2 you have? Mercy and words of knowledge. Oh, I know someone else in here wants to go to the words of Suzanne. You're going to go see him. Okay. But all right, we'll see what happens. Maybe wait and see who's in what section. And if there's more people in one, go talk there. Just tonight is let's find out get your question. I'm going to walk around, just kind of just see if you have any specific questions. And we'll be here as long as you need to be here. I took a nap this afternoon. I'm going to go right to bed afterwards too, because getting home at 3:00 in the morning was not fun last night. All right. John Sproul was like, "How does it feel like to be staying out to 3:00 in the morning on the night before you have the biggest message of the year?" And the second thing is, oh, by the way, this morning, just so you know, I robbed you a little bit. If you notice at the end, I skipped you like 6 slides. I forgot half the sermon. Arthur was like, "Oh, that would have been. Oh yeah, dummy. All right, so you got a bonus speed church today." So I was so amped up after the skit that I just kind of went into the conclusion. So, but I think it went well. All right. Any other questions? Nope. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Well, people came after Pastor, man, that was so short. And I'm like, yeah, I was short. I'm like, okay, I was thinking about myself. And I was scrolling to the song. I'm like, oops, I forgot that. Oops, forgot that. Oops, forgot that. If you notice, I scrolled really fast. All right, so let's go ahead and now there are words on the outside, on all the sides. I'm not sure why they're like that, but so you want to find a chair to sit in or pew to sit in, and then I'll walk around and kind of just take it as a go. Wait, we have a question online. How do I investigate the gift of faith? Anyone online with the gift of faith? Okay, great. So John, once I go around and I get to the faith group, if you hang in there, I'll see if there's questions there, and we'll talk about that one. All right. So, okay. So find one you like to learn more about, and then we'll go from there. All right. So as you move around and you find a section you want to talk about, that would be great. And I'm just going to kind of move around the room, give everybody a chance to look at all the different ones. I need to look at the numbers. I can't remember. Got your phone? Yeah, but I don't think it's. Oh yeah, I didn't put that. Yeah, I don't. Not funny, no. Pastor Mansock, if you see any comments online, you can let me know. Kind of walk around real quick and see where everything is. Huh? You fill out your test yet? You did?
On your desk.
Could be on my computer. Could be on my desk. I don't know. Well, that's not here. Yeah.
The ones that you printed out.
Yeah. I don't know where it would be at this point.
I can just see that someone is going to be there.
All right.
Yeah, he's lost all right.
All right. All right.
I can go here or here.
Which one?
I could go faith.
Oh, I'm going to go here first, though. You want to come here? All right. All right. All right. So my phone is messing up. Well, I know John online asked about faith, so we got the faith group here. So I'm going to use the microphone here so John can hear online. Otherwise, I won't use the microphone all the time, just for this group here. So John asked a question: how do you investigate faith? It's a gift that's really personal, where you're going to be there. Faith is for Christians. It's not for the non-Christian. What it is, that's mercy and things like that after that. But faith is when you have another Christian who's having a downtime, who seems lost like a puppy dog, but they're a Christian. They've been come to church, they've done things, but they're just really. So what it is God's going to put on you. Well, not so much encouragement, because it's a gift of encouragement. What it'll be is you will take what they have, you will feel what they have. But now here's the danger. And this is where people go. They go, well, I'm gonna take their burden from them. You're gonna take it from them, but you don't want to put it on you. If you put it on you, then you just transferred one problem to you. God doesn't want anybody to have a burden. It says, bear one another's burdens. And he's talking about helping them, but then each has their own. So you don't want to take theirs and add it to yours. You want to help them get rid. What God's going to do, he's going to give you the impression of the Spirit that this person has this. You're going to feel what they're going through, so you can pray in faith and stand in faith. Say, God, it is going to be all things work together for good. You're going to live Romans 8:28 for them. Now, you're not going to let it stay on your shoulders. That's the danger with the gift of faith is. You'll be like, well, I need to experience what they're going through to really pray for. No. That's just going to weigh you down. But you're going to feel what they're going through. You're going to know what they're going through. And then God's going to inspire you to pray in that vein for them. Because basically they're so wounded or they're so beat down that they're at the point well, God doesn't really care. Or I just can't do it anymore. They get tired. Spiritual battles get tiring, just like physical battles get tiring. And your job is to help their tired spirit get revived. That's what faith does. Now, it's interesting that Nathan's here in this group, because Nathan's experienced the other side, right? and it's neat that God's calling people into that, to do that. So so how do you know if you have the gift? It's not a gift that you work in all the time, because if you did, it's a very tiring gift. Okay. So John, it's not something you're going to see all the time, but you're going to. It's a Christian. It's a gift to help Christians who are struggling. Now, it could be someone who's down at the bottom. It also could be when someone's just like they're at the high and all of a sudden they start to fall back and something's going. It might not even be anything really hard. But for them, see, what we think is hard and what they think is hard are two different things. Right. Could be to get through a breakthrough. Right. Faith is helping. Maybe they're trying to get somewhere and they just, we're two walk together. You'd be walking together, helping them get through break through a certain wall in their life. It's hard. Now we can get with Jesus Christ, we can get through anything, but our mental minds don't always think we can. So God gives the gift of faith to somebody to walk with them. It's kind of like Ecclesiastes. I think it's 4, 9, and 10, where two walk together. If one walks alone, they fall. But two walk together, they can hold each other up. That's what faith is. You're literally coming by another Christian who's in that gift, who's not in that gift, but needs someone to have. Now, faith, it's not just, hey, let me pray for your brother or sister. You'll have this deep urge to really understand what they're going through, but once again, not allow it to overcome you, because your job's not to carry their problem. Your job is to help them go forward and being free of that. So they could be either free of that, or they could, like I said, they could be, they're on the verge and they need that, like you're getting to like the top of the mountain and you just need that little extra push up. That is also another version of faith. Right. And so there, like with the teenager who shared that with you, there, what? So what you have is what you're going to do is you're trying to help them, and you're young in their faith and they're learning, and they're in a house that's not Christian. So that's God's helping you help them walk through it by, Lord, I'm going to pray in faith. I'm going to stand when they can't stand in faith. I'm going to stand in the gap with them. And here's the thing, when you're working in that gift, not only will you feel it, even if you're not even with that person, they'll feel it. A lot of times people with the gift of faith, they'll come back to church after a week, and say, man, this week I just felt something different this week. That's because you were literally you don't have to literally be walking right beside them to have the gift of faith can go. You could even use this with missionaries and things like that. And it's a deep connection that distance and that doesn't matter. But it's you saying, God, I want to feel what they're going through, but not embrace it. So you can then pray with that faith, that yearning, that passion that right now they're not either. They're unable to either because they think they can't push through anymore, or they just feel like they're down. And you're going to be able to help them in a supernatural way where they'll flow through, and you'll get to see the results because they'll come back and they might even talk to you, but there'll be something different about them. But you'll know your gift helped them because they're changed. Like, man, I got through it, or I got over it, and it's like, wow, that's what faith is. Yeah. Now, the gift of faith is not usually, and the reason why you don't have it all the time, well, you have it all the time, but you won't use it all the time because, just like you said, she's working on it. Some people, when you have the gift of faith, the reason you have is because it probably is a work in progress. It probably is. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to pray for him today in faith and that's it. No, it's a progressive gift, because if they need you to be faith for them, they're really in a quagmire. And so you probably only have one assignment at a time, and it might take a week. It could take months, could take years, but that's why we're here to help. We don't know when someone's going to need that. But the key is, and that's what, because it's a longer term gift with an individual, it's very important not to let those burdens straddle you. You're seeing, knowing God's letting you know what's going on. You're feeling that, and you're praying passionately for it, but don't let that become part of you. That's a danger, and that happens, and that does happen because we're humans. We have, Lord, and when you feel that, you gotta say, Lord, hey, I know, Lord, I'm the devil. No, I'm not taking this. I'm pushing you down. You're not coming on me. And you have to, and people with faith have to have a strong inner fortitude. And I know John, who's in this group, and I know you two personally. I know for you have that inner fortitude because you've all been through different things, and you know that. And God picks people that can handle that. It's a tough one, but it's not going to be one that's going to be. And here's the other thing. Here's the other way you can go wrong too. You could take on too many cases. Okay, so if God has you working with somebody, just because you feel it in, you can share it with me, and I can share with somebody else. We have a lot of people with the gift of faith, more than the three that are in this group right now. But there's a reason for that, because people, to really pray through something, you need to be concentrated on praying through that one thing. And the devil's going to come back, well, you really need help that person. Unless God tells you, because you'll have this you'll have this feeling where you're needed in a way you can't explain. And right. And you'll have that, right? Oh, yeah. So right. And that was empowering to you, wasn't it? Right. And with the devil, he'll come by and say, well, you need to help out. No, let God lead. When you'll feel, I really can't explain. You're just going to feel this deep burden for this particular person. And you might not even need to go talk to that person. That's what mercy's for and encouragement. They go talk to the person. The faith, you might not even actually have to have a conversation because maybe they don't want to have a conversation. You know, yeah, you don't want to fill God's shoes. You want God to fill you. And so that's what that is. So make sense? Any other questions? Cool. Well, you guys could share some stories, and hopefully Johnny got that. Oh, hang on. Go ahead, Musaka. How many are there? Well, there's 2 right here, but there's like 7 or 8 who took the test to have it. So we have quite a few with the gift of faith. So, and with the church of 200 people, we're going to need more than 3 people with that. So, oh, real quick question, just so you know, I know that's great hearing all the conversation. In a few weeks, we're going to have a TV in a hallway, and it's going to scroll probably by Easter, and you'll know who has what gifts, so you can talk to one another and do things, and it'll continue to be added to. We figured that'd be easier than putting up a chart, because then that'd be hard to keep racing and doing all that. All right. Okay, which group? Anybody else online, Mensaga? Okay. Was others online? Okay. Any other group wants me to come and see them? Raise their hand. This one over here. Okay. Is with the spiritual gifts, should we be just move when God moves on it, or should we be seeking to be used? Right? Is that the question? The answer is, what do you think the answer is? Yeah, the answer is absolutely both. All right. Here's the thing. You know, if you have a gift and then you're using it and you feel the power moving through, you're going to naturally want to seek that out. Now, with that though, is you got to seek out what God wants. Not sometimes we can get so filled with doing things. Like when I know healing is one of yours, possibly, and if that happens, once it really happens, you'll be like, man, that's how faith healers get involved, and then they have to cheat to make that they have to feed the beast. Okay, so it's okay to seek after them. Why not? God gave you a gift. Hey, it's like Christmas. Use it. But the other side is, some gifts you'll be like, hey, God, I'm going to wait and see what God has for that. So there's both possibilities. So what the administration is you're seeing, you're not the leader, you're not the raw, you're the person behind the scenes who kind of crosses the T's, dots the I's, and make sure the person who's leading doesn't go wonky. Okay, because they're missing things. Now, most people with the gift of administration have a gentle spirit, for lack of a better term. They're not one to go up and say, hey, dummy, stop doing that. That's not typically administrative type people, right? But if you have that gift and you see a ministry going and you see that ministry leader frustrated, and if you have to get the administration, you can offer your gift. Now, that's a third opportunity. You could offer your gift. Like I just talked to people of faith. They can go up to somebody. They might be praying for something. They might not even meet the person. But if they meet the person, you can offer your gift, but they can also say what? Say, no, thank you. Now, that doesn't mean now you're freed from that. But there's no condemnation for that, because, hey, we can't force people. You go up to, I've had that happen in my life where people have done ministry and they go up and say, hey, we can help you with this. And they turn them down. And then you see things. Okay. So you can't force your gift on somebody, but you can see where it's needed and they go. And if you think you're supposed to be there, it's great. But here's the thing you gotta understand. If you think you're needed, but the person who God's leading that says you're not needed, you have to have the humbleness to say, okay, one of two things. God, it might have been from you, but it's their fault they messed up. Or maybe you got ahead of yourselves and but you don't let it should roll off. Don't take take it personally. That's the in spiritual gifts. You can't take any of the spiritual gifts personally, because if you do, what'll happen is you'll squash the spirit. Also, there's some people out there who don't want the gifts. Most churches don't believe in that. People in the church might not, still not get it, right? And so you can't push something on someone even though they need it. So now this is a good illustration of the faith gift I just talked about. If someone's going through that and they're struggling as a leader, maybe God moves on a faith gift to pray for that leader. See how they could come down. And the reason I bring it up, because Nathan was in the faith group, now he's up here in the administrative group. So it's kind of, you could see how they all kind of come together. Yes. Oh, okay. You got the unique cocktail. Okay. You're flip-flop, right? And what's your healings and miracles, right? No. Uh-huh. So leadership was your spiritual, and leadership was your, and administration was your, okay. And you're married. That is absolutely that is a wonderful cocktail. Because what's going to happen with that is basically you're going to be the new power couple. No, kidding. No, what? But what God is doing is he's going to put you both in a position where you can. Well, leadership is the rah. You say, hey, when everybody thinks they can't do it, you're going to help. You're going to lead the battle. You're going to pick up the flag and be at the front of the line. Administration helps that person who's going to not forget about things along the way. So yeah. Now, which one's your natural? Right, leadership, and your spiritual is administration. So her spiritual administration, and her natural is administration, and leader opposite. So as you lead, okay, she now has a sense on what you're doing, and then when you need administration, that's her natural gift. She'll be able to help you out, but but since you're sensitive to it, you'll be able to work much better together, which is great. Spiritual gifts are a good marriage test. They should look like this. And then when she's doing administration, okay, and leadership's not her natural gift, and there's going to be times that she's going to need to be super Maggie. You're going, well, yeah, well, I can't help you with that. Okay, I can't help you. But you're going to be able to help prop that leadership side of her, because sometimes what's happening is God's going to use both of you, and there may be with times where you're not together, but you need it. Because remember, the gifts aren't just in the church. They could be in your job, your business, at the hospital, at where you work. Cleveland Brothers. You never know maybe God's going to rise up Bible study at each of those, and you're going to lead that. Or maybe God's going to have a healing. Who knows what's God's going to happen? But because you both are opposite, you can help when you're leading something or when you're administrating something, you can basically cover each other's what lacks. So you could lead, and you're like, I got a rah, but I'm worried about what's going to happen. Oh, well, you got that. Now she's over here. I know what's going to happen, but I really need to be a leader here, because maybe it's a group of women, but I don't really have that tenacity. Well, guess what? That's where he would come in. Does that make sense? So you got to work together. Well, and that's why you investigate it. With you, I see. But leadership at work's different. That they're talking about leading people from a top-down type of thing. Yeah. That's not leadership, right? Yeah, it's bringing it's spiritual group of leadership is the administration is what is more the world's line of leadership, but from a humble point of view, spiritual leadership is okay. We have this thing, and I'm going to push it forward. I'm going to make it happen, and I'm going to be the cheerleader for it, for lack of a better term. And no matter whatever the problems is, it's like I'm going to conquer. I'm General Patton. I'm General Eisenhower. I'm just going to. But the leadership person needs the administrator, because they can steamroll people. So, but God put that second gift in you so you can be sensitive to her gift. Basically, you get to be the front person, and she gets to be behind you. But really, it's not her listening to you. It's really more you listening. Not you lead, you let him lead. But when you see things behind the scenes to be done, you need to listen because she's trying to help because God wants to have a ministry for you. But how it is, I mean, it could be like we talked about worship, and I've talked to Pastor Misaka about that. You might be doing that, might be going, we go other places. Like this week, we're going, who knows what's going to happen? But then there's a little details that need to be done, and she's going to be the one behind the scenes. Hey, Greg, you missed that. But that's to help you because here's the thing. If the leader doesn't look good, it looks bad for the church. So having an administrator with you is really good. It's kind of like Johnny and them have this, have a similar vibe. Yeah. You're right there. That's your natural gift. And it's Johnny's like total like. Yeah. But that's why usually people that get married, it's really neat to see how, yeah. And
You.
Yeah, a little bit.
you get to go free with it. You don't have to wait for God to tell you. That's just who you are. God's saying, do it, and I've given you someone to help you. But God's also telling you is that you could have a tendency toward it. Let him help you lead better, and you help him administrate better. Okay, I marriage counseling comes later. Okay, all right. Anybody else have a question about this gift? Huh? He does. Yeah. Well, eventually he wants to go out and do all these ministries. He needs someone that can do that with him. But he will fail miserably without someone to do that. Now, here's the thing. You can go, if his job is to go start ministries from scratch, these ministries from scratch aren't going to have spiritual people. So guess what? He needs you, and he needs to listen to you. Huh? 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 Good. See? See, if he did that more, things would be a lot more smoother. Right. But you as an administrator, like I said, listen, you just gotta, sometimes you just gotta tell them the way it is. And administrators they're kind of, they're going to be kind of like this is the way the deadpan this is the way it is or else, buddy. Yeah, it is. Yes. Because typically you're with somebody who's administrators come behind ministry leaders, pastors, apostles, prophets, leadership gifts, because the leader sees the mountain, can't wait to get to it. The administrator helps them not fall down the mountain. Absolutely. Yeah. Administrator would be. Yeah. All right. But those people can be misunderstood. But it's a spiritual. But they're needed, aren't they? Now, how many times is somebody? How many times has somebody in the world fallen and then they go, man, I wish I would have listened to that person. The wish I would have listened to that person is the gift of administration. Hey, anybody else before I move somewhere else? Oh, feel free to talk. 5 of you here. That's a good group. All right. Any other group wants me to come by? Anybody else? Munsaka, we have somebody online? Who? Fran, yes. Yeah, she could. She could have both. You can have more than one. Now, administration and serving can go well together because the administrator kind of makes sure all the nuts and bolts go well together. A server has this heart to do whatever's needed, and those two could go well together because a lot of times people serve and they kind of serve aimlessly, and the administrator gives purpose to the server. But if one person has both, then they can move even freer because they'll have more purpose to what they're doing. Or a server just kind of sees the need and God shows it to them. They just jump in, but they don't always know what they're doing. They're just happy to be there. when you have server plus administrator, you can add purpose to the server. Does that make sense? So if you let her, that'd be good. So hopefully she's listening. Yeah, over there. I see that hand. Hang on. I'm coming.
Okay, Pastor.
Well, make sure tongues in.
Well, kind of mixed.
Oh, you're a mix. Okay.
It's a big party back here.
All right.
On my test,
Yeah.
you had accidentally missed like missionary on there.
Huh?
On my test,
Yeah.
You had said I had like the natural gift of teaching and the possible interpretation of tongues,
Correct.
but missionary was on there too.
Right.
So we had missed that. So anyway, you say that your spiritual gift is something you don't want to do, right?
Typically, yes. Or you're not gifted in, right? Or you don't normally do. Like,
Yeah. So I'm a missionary
is it
because
spiritual or natural?
that. Well, I don't know. It was all zeros and 1 4.
Yes, so it's probably a supernatural. Yeah.
And
Okay.
the 4 was because the question was,
I'll make one.
is your heart wanting to reach out and bring people to Jesus? So I answered a 4.
Right.
So outside of that, everything else was a 0. So
Right.
is that a
So what that means is your gifting is not to be a missionary full time.
okay?
Okay, so you won't
Okay.
be going around raising money to be a missionary. It's
Okay.
not to go into some foreign land. Okay. Okay. All right. But it is to go to a group of people in your sphere of influence that is unsaved, but it's a group that you're not going to be yourself compatible with. So, for example, like maybe around here, God might call you to the Hispanic community that's growing in this area, or He might call you to the to a teenage community that you don't relate. Because a missionary, in order for a missionary to be effective, it has to be a culture that's counter to what you normally are, because that's where the missionary gift comes out, because you're able to overcome that cultural barrier. Cultural barriers it could be language. In this area, it could be maybe you're going to be a missionary to the drug heads in town. That's a whole nother culture, how they think. So the fact that you got a 4 in that one question and 0s in all the others, you're not called to be full-time, and you're not called to go to a foreign country, but you are called to do a specific culture in the area that we're in here now. Now, what you got to do now is find out what culture is it, and it's going to be a cult. Now, like I said, spiritual gift is something you don't normally do. So if you're looking for someone who looks like you, that's not a missionary gift. So you're actually going to need to pray and then look. Like, here's how you'll find out. Man, I really don't like what they're doing. That's probably the group. Okay, that's probably the group, because the reason why it's bugging you is because God's calling you to that group in this community. So the group of people that you go, man, I just don't like them. Guess what? Since you got the missionary gift, that's God's calling you to that culture. And the reason why you're feeling, it's not just, and what I'm saying is, I'm not just saying, well, I just don't like them and like I'm a pastor. I mean, you think about it constantly. I really don't like how they act or how they do things. And if it's a constant thing, that's actually the Holy Spirit telling you, I want you to go talk to them, but they won't accept me. I'm so weird. It's like me when I was earlier in my life, when I was pastoring and God called me to go into inner cities. And I would go, and God called me specifically to all black neighborhoods with all kinds of crime. And I walked in as 380-pound fat white guy walking in there, I was the opposite of Fat Albert, and I didn't know anything about their culture. I stuck out like a sore thumb, but you know what? I was able to do mighty things because I stuck out, but I cared to come there. I even told them, I don't want to be around you. But that's the thing. I didn't want to be around them, but I couldn't help myself. That's a gift. That's how you know it's a gift. A natural gift you do on your own. Spiritual gift is something, I don't know if I want to do it, but I'm going to do it because, God, I love you. And with missionary things, it's going to be a group of people in this local area that you just really wouldn't spend your time with, but you're going to end up doing it. So you're going to need to spend time with that. And when something literally rubs you the wrong way about somebody, you walk to the store and you see people doing this or that, and they really shouldn't be doing, it's kind of like people as church goes, well, you need to be like us. You need to be, people get irritated at that. It could even be in the church, who knows? But you're going to go to that culture and you're going to have to work your way in. But when you get in there, because you're different, they see the heart, then the missionary gift will come through in that. So that's why that's a spiritual gift. And because missionary is not all around the world, there's just as much groups around here. And a missionary could be a call to a group of 1,000,000 people or a group of two. It won't be one, because that's missionaries are called to minister to multiple people. So it's going to be two or more. So pay attention as you go around, and the people that get underneath your skin, you might want to go, that's the group I need to go love on a little bit more. I'm not saying every group, but investigate it. Investigate it. Just he brought some to your attention. Okay, and you don't want to do it, do you? Right. So that's why. See, that's why it's a spiritual gift. So when it happens, you'll feel the power going through. You'll feel that love change. You'll feel a change in you. See, now you're not going to come back to church. Okay. All right. Yes.
Said it's encouragement, but you think it's through tongues and interpretation.
Yes, tongues. Yeah. Your interpretation. Now with interpretation, it's when there'll be somebody speaking tongues, which is Peggy's spiritual gift, and Leonard, and so it'll start happening more. When God asks you to you won't have. Now here's the thing with interpretation: just because you've gifted interpretation doesn't mean that every time someone gives a message in tongues, you have to interpret. Your interpretation gift is when you'll feel it, and yours is going to be an uplifting one. Other people might have an interpretation where they're going to say, hey, this is the way it is, type of thing. That's why there's different interpreters, because God, and yours is paired with encouragement. So when you hear a tongue, it's going to be a sense in the room. Like if someone gives a tongue, usually one of two things happens. Usually the whole room's lit up, or the whole room's like, what's going on? When the whole room's lit up, that's your cue, because it's probably an encouraging tongue. God sets the atmosphere. If everybody's like, oh, wow, that's for someone else to bring I'm using the word deeper, but it doesn't mean it's any deeper, but more solemn. Hey, I'm bringing light to something that everybody needs that's really going to shock and awe type of thing. There's the shock and awe interpretation, and then there's the encouraging, uplifting interpretation. You're going to be the encouraging, uplifting interpretation. So when that's important to understand, because if you have the gift of interpretation, a lot of interpreters think every time there's a tongue, they have to be the one to interpret. But what if that is not what's going on? Is that, so there'll be different interpreters, just like there'll be different people with tongues, maybe. Right. Okay, I'll tell you right now, when I interpret, one of my spiritual gifts is interpretation, but I only interpret, unless God really tells me to, I only interpret when no one else does. Because people in the church will think I'm just trying to push something through. I'm like the backstop. And the reason I have it makes sense to the pastor, because no one, if you're not willing to interpret and somebody else isn't willing to interpret, you're not willing to interpret, guess what? It has to be interpreted. And if the person who gives the tongue, they have to be willing to interpret if no one else does, but if they don't, someone has to. So I am the backstop. So for me, I don't really have a flavor. If it passes everybody, God's going to make me say something, because everything has to be in order. So as a pastor, my job is to make sure the church is done orderly and that. So if everybody passes, God's going to tell to speak. So mine could be encouraging, mine could be deep. So I don't have because of my office, I don't have a particular, if all the interpreters stay silent, I have to do whatever that was supposed to be. So therefore I don't have a flavor. Make sense? So, but how do I know? I have no clue. I just know I'm the last guy standing. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, so that's a good one in the tongues interpretation. What if the interpretation is short? All right. Give you an example. I preached a message, right? And then when I'm done with the message, I said, we're going to conclude. What's that mean? When I conclude, what do I do? Finish it? No, that's not what I do. You don't pay attention. Every time I conclude a message, what do I do? Every single time. I re-give all the points of the sermon, and not all the stories in that, but I wrap it up. So here's the thing: someone could be giving a tongue, and God's making the person go longer because he's trying to get people's attention, right? So they might be re-saying it, right? You know, if someone starts speaking in tongues and God says, "Okay, I want you to keep going," maybe God is reinforcing something, but it's still only it's still just one point. The English interpretation does not, or if you're in Germany, the German, whatever the interpretation is in your natural language, does not have to be the same word for word, because you know, you look at when we sing songs, you're on the worship team, we sing a song, right? What if the tongue is a spiritual song? Well, songs, you sing the chorus what? Over and over and over again. So it could be somebody where God's saying the same thing, and yeah, it could be longer, but then God's telling you this is what they said, but they said it over and over. So here's the thing: when someone discourages you, say, "Well, it wasn't as long as the tongue." Two things. Number one, they probably have no idea what they're talking about. But just most people don't understand spiritual gifts. They think it has to be a certain way. Okay, and most people think an interpretation should be long and flowing. Like sometimes the interpretation might be 5 words, because God wants to get someone to the point. You know, sometimes the people interpret, and they're interpreting, and all of a sudden they're searching for words. When you interpret, you won't search for words; it'll just flow. And if it's short, you're done. If it's long, you just go. But if you have to start filling in words, you're not interpreting; you're moving in the flesh. So, and what you understand is, so when you're interpreting, if it's shorter, don't feel bad about it, because you don't know what God was saying in that tongue. That's the point of tongues, right? We don't understand. God's going to tell us what he's trying to say. And sometimes God has to do the tongue longer. And I think more often than not, the tongue will be longer than the interpretation. Because what if someone's in the room and they're still talking, and all of a sudden, then they kind of, maybe God has to repeat himself to get everybody on board to hear the one thing he's trying to say. Because also take this too. Remember the rules. There can be 3 tongues, but only 1 interpretation. So if that's true, that's I tell you, there could be 3 people in tongues. There's going to be the same interpretation. So therefore, God's already telling you that the tongue will be longer than the interpretation. That person's gone. Well, yeah. Well, you know, but that's going to happen because, you know, we're trying to do things the right way. Does that make sense? Yep. And there's nothing wrong with that, because now what's God say in the Bible in Matthew chapter 6? Don't babble, right? Well, God doesn't babble either. But when the tongue is not, and you might say, well, God's keep repeating himself. He's doing that, but no one else is understanding. He's trying to get everybody to the point where they're ready to listen. And then it could be a short word, because God's not going to waste his words. The tongue is just to grab people's attention. That's the pure, and it's really to be used when there's unsaved people in the room. It's not really, people go to a lot of saved churches and expect a tongue. Actually, you can prophecy and interpret without a tongue. If God tells you to say something, you can just do it. The tongue is really for the unbeliever to grab their attention, or for those in the room who aren't to the same level, skeptics. It's to bring them into the fold, and to also get everybody to shut up, for lack of a better term. I'm ready to speak, but you guys, or not even shut up, but shut your mind off. Like they're on their phone during church, or they're like this in the message, and all of a sudden God wants to wake them up. So the tongue wakes them up, but the interpretation doesn't have to be as long as the tongue, because God might be doing a bunch of stuff, and he's going to stop the tongue once everybody's attention's there. All right, you had a hand. Well, go ahead. Yeah, it is right. So it doesn't have to be long. And don't let and people are judging it. Here's the thing. Here's how you know if you're right or wrong. If someone in the audience is affected by it, you're right. So it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about it. All right? If you interpret properly, then 2 things will happen. Somebody, Christian in the audience, will, because that's not for everybody. Everybody will feel it. And the person who was unsaved in the room or doesn't believe in tongues, a Christian who doesn't believe in that, go, wow, that was beautiful. Now you know. That's how you know. It's not, well, your interpretation didn't match your tongue. How do they know how do they know? They can't know. But that's how the devil works to get people, and you haven't done it for a while. And that's how the devil gets you to stop. Right. And you just got to ignore people. If you're going to do, oh, okay, good question came up. This is for everybody. When you use your spiritual gift People are going to question whether it's real or not. Don't listen to any of them. The only person you have to listen to is is God, and then the office leaders. If it's affecting someone else, doesn't matter what they think of your gift. It's between you and God, and that's how the devil's going to get you to stop using it. Oh, what do people think of me doing that? Here's the question you got to think of: what does God think of you doing it? Okay, because otherwise, because we care about what other people think of us. God's trying to get us to lean on Him, not on other people. And if they have a problem, it literally is their problem. You go see me. They won't. They'll just leave. But that works, right? Okay. Anybody else need me tonight? Want to ask me a question? Okay. Well, I can come ask. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Hey, about a half hour. I can't. Yeah, wait about. I'm still in class, so he's here to get something. I can't leave yet. Huh? Yeah.
Discerning of spirits and prophecy.
Okay.
Prophecy was a natural, which I'd like to talk more about.
Okay.
And discerning of spirits was one of the possible spirituals.
Okay.
But the discerning of spirits, my question on that was, is like sensing a spirit in a place that discerning
No,
of spirits?
no, because you're a Christian.
Right.
Okay, discerning of spirits. Okay, you won't sense a spirit. If you're a Christian, you walk into an evil place, you'll know it's evil, just because you're a Christian. Because remember, the light invades the darkness. If you're truly a Christian, every Christian's going to know when they're entering a place or where someone comes besides them who doesn't really have God. You're going to know that just because you're a Christian, because by your fruits you will know them. So that's not discerning of spirits. What discerning of spirits is you'll be, when someone's using, someone's out there pretending to be a Christian and leading people astray, you're going to be able to discern that and stop it. It's there's people out there like wolves. To a certain, and now you're not the prophet being able to, the prophet defends the church. Discerning of spirits is out there. When you see someone leading someone astray, and it could be faking a Christian, or they could be, say, a Muslim making a good argument to someone to convert them. You'll be able to say, hey, you'll be able to point out, hey, this is what spirit that is and what's going on, and be able to discerning of spirits is opening people's eyes to things. But some people think I discern spirits because I walk in a room and I feel the evil there. If you're a Christian and you walk into an evil room, you should naturally feel that. That's not discerning. Your job is to specifically, when someone's trying, well, we're all about trying to get people to heaven. When someone's trying to literally trick someone or smooth talk someone into believing something they shouldn't, like say Jehovah's Witnesses, they're pretty smooth. Mormons, your job is to go, oh, that spirit will identify, and you'll be motivated to say, hey, this is not the truth, and you'll bring the truth. Now, you're paired with the natural gift of prophecy. What is prophecy? Encouragement from the Lord. Well, that would be great in that situation to then be able to naturally use your gift of prophecy to bring something encouraging from the Lord that will actually be specific for that person, which will close the door on whatever false thing's going to. And it might not even be cults. It could just be human secularism. In your job, you do a lot of that. So discerning of spirits is, you see something going in the wrong direction, God will say, hey, okay, now you need to use your prophecy here to bring that word specifically to them. So that's what discerning of spirits is. It's not so much because everybody has, if you're really a Christian, you walk into a bar, you walk into Walmart, and you're walking around, you walk by somebody, you just feel that they don't have Jesus. You should naturally feel that. That just should be that's natural for every Christian. That's not discerning of spirits. So people think that's discerning of spirits, but it's just, if you're truly a Christian, you're going to sense evil. You're going to sense right from wrong in a better way the closer you get to Jesus.
So more if I'm, say, in my job interacting with someone, and I can tell that they're turned away from the Lord because of something maybe that happened in, people that are turned away from the church type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're turned away from the Lord. Being able to come to them and share.
Oh, okay, that's good. People have turned away from the Lord. Discerning of spirits is good because the reason they turned away from the Lord is because some spirit has convinced them. So you'll be able to discern what God's giving you a spiritual gift. You won't know, but God will spiritually tell you this is why they turned. And then you can use your natural gift of prophecy to give them a word that combats that specific spirit.
The gift of knowledge is knowing the word within God's word.
No.
Brings some
Now, the gift of knowledge is knowing something that person could about that person and no one else could know. So it might not even be spiritual. I mean, it's spiritual. It's not word. You know, it's the word of knowledge is designed to bring someone to Jesus Christ by saying, "Hey, I know this. How'd you know that?" So it's not gonna have a Bible verse attached to it. That's word of knowledge. Word of wisdom would be applying that knowledge in a biblical way. So that would apply with biblical point. But the word of knowledge is you just like the green jello story. The guy just that's the word of knowledge. So it's not going to be the word of knowledge is probably going to be more only going to make sense. It's not going to make any sense to you. Correct. And it's going to be totally, and it's not going to be like, oh, holy. It's not going to be anything real spiritual in your mind, but it's something that because here's the thing, the word of knowledge is to break down the wall so the person can hear the truth. So it's not going to be a Bible verse. It's not going to be because they're probably already conditioned against the Bible verse, and they're going to be, it breaks the veil, right? So word of knowledge is going to break open a door supernaturally that could not break because they'll be like, how did you know that? Well, God told me. And they'll know God told you because there's no way in the world you knew what that was. So yeah, it's not a word of knowledge is not attached to like you won't be using Bible verses in a word of knowledge situation. Yes. Yes. Words of knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay, what do you want to know? A word of knowledge, the difference in word of knowledge and word of wisdom is word of knowledge is when you know something supernaturally about something that you could never know. Word of wisdom is when someone has something going through and God gives you the application. Remember, knowledge is knowing a fact. Wisdom is the application of the fact. And so when you have a word of wisdom, you're going to tell someone they already know what to do. They just don't know how to do it. You're going to give them the how-to, usually from a biblical point of view. Word of wisdom probably have no Bible in it at all because you're just pulling a fact out of the middle of nowhere in order to change the lighten them that God does care about them. Word of wisdom is God will give you, they already have the knowledge. They just don't know what to do with it. And the word of wisdom helps them go in the right direction. What to do is they're trying to figure something out and they go this way and they run into a wall. They go this way, run into a wall. They go this way. And the person with word of wisdom says, what if you do it this way? And then they get over the wall. But they never contemplated that. They might have, but they might have discounted it because maybe they didn't think it was possible because they were doubting God. But a word of wisdom says, no, this is what God really wants you to do. I want you to go in that direction. Really? But then they go in that direction. They see that was the way they were supposed to do. Wisdom helps someone use the knowledge they have, actually get them to where they're going. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it'll be longer. Oh, that's okay. Well, that's why other people, just because you have the word of wisdom doesn't mean God can't give wisdom to you. Like tonight, you've got a revelation of what you're really supposed to be doing. That would be a word of wisdom that I gave you tonight. You know, you had the knowledge, but now you know the application. That's what a word of wisdom is. Make sense? And so if you don't know, that's why we're going to have this posted. If you don't know, go to somebody who has the word of wisdom, tell them your knowledge, and they'll tell you what God says to do with it. Does that make sense? Now, the word of wisdom person, you're just going to go up to people and you're just going to say, hey, God told me this about you. And that's it. There's no application. You don't need to define it. You just say it and it'll hit them because how did you know? That's what the word of knowledge is. All right? Make sense? All right, cool. Yes.
I see her having a connection with the family, being able to discern what they need, but not being the one to lead.
Uh-huh.
If she has that gift, that was important. What would be the next step? Would we have hospitality for her or evangelism on her?
Okay.
How would you organize that?
Okay. What's the answer?
The next step?
Yeah.
Any of the above, I guess, would go out together, right?
Could, but how would you find that out? Yeah, go find something with that. Yeah.
Talk to the administrator, let them
Pray about it.
on that and pray on it.
That's their gift, and they'll say what pieces should be involved. See, sometimes go to let that person do their gift. Man, the administrator's waiting for people to come to them.
And then like if she's the outreach coordinator, we can still have someone with the gift of leadership to help get that really going and orchestrating along with the administrator, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes. That's why they're all supposed to be. No one's supposed to do it all on their own.
Does that fall in line with your heart? Like I said, this is what I felt.
It's our favorite. God's
Yeah. So that's how. Yeah, that's how they would work. We're supposed to want to lean on one another, not try to do it all ourselves.
And knowing what we're, to me, this helps knowing what we're leaning on others to do.
Correct.
And leaning on the right people who will be energized by that and not burdened.
Well, now that everybody knows what their gifts is, and we'll have it on the, like I said, we're going to have a screen up there, and you can look every week. Okay, I need this. Okay, I'm going to go find that person. That person now needs to do that because they know that's their gift, and they'll move, find that, and then everything will move better. But in terms of what gift you need, if you don't know what gift you need, then the administrator's gift to go to, because they'll be able to pray about, well, you need to go talk to this person, you need to go talk to that person. They're not going to do it for you, but they're going to be able to see the holes, and they'll be able to help you find the gift that you need. Like you say, well, maybe I need this, maybe I need this, well, they'll be able to. God will help them know where to go with that. That makes sense.
So basically, if you've got an overview picture, going to someone administrative to help create that overview into
Yeah.
more manageable parts.
Yeah, the key is though going. See, the problem is we get a ministry, we don't always like to go until we're in trouble. And no, yeah, but it's saying, okay, well, if I don't know, I'm unsure. A lot of people want to try to figure it out themselves because they were told to do this, but no, wait, go ask that person who has that gift to help you with it. Just because you're the leader of something doesn't mean you do it all. You're right. That's why there's 24 gifts and different types of gifts for different types of things. Yeah. Huh? Oh, okay. Okay.
You're good now, though, right? You're not nauseous no more?
Who's that? Your mom?
Yeah, that's why she left.
Oh,
She was
okay.
getting nauseous because of the smell.
Oh, yeah, the smell is pretty. Yeah. Yep. Well, I can't smell it, but
I'll see you in a few.
I should not have sat down. Oh gosh, yes.
We need the electric pews to stand.
Hey, Pastor, what would my gift? I think my gift was both. Wasn't it evangelist, and then it was prophecy, and then it was mercy?
Right. So could be any of those, or one of those, or all three of those. Right.
Now, see, are we allowed to take the test again? Sure. Because I feel like, for me though, I have ADHD, so I didn't understand most of what was being said, like at zero.
Do it again.
So, like, not that I have a problem with that, but like people keep telling me that, and I really don't like it. I keep hearing people like that. They're like, "Oh, you look like you got fat." anything.
All right. Hey, just so you know, this has been absolutely awesome. You can talk as long as you want. No one has to leave. It's set, believe it or not, 7:30. Can you believe that? It's just great. And like I said, if you ever have a question about your gifts, you can always call me. You can email me. You can Facebook me. You can text me. I'll lose my Christianity for a little bit because I have fat thumbs, and I hate texting because I sometimes text bad things by accident. I hate autocorrect as well. But if you have questions, feel free to stick around. And also, there's bread back here. If you want bread, take it from our first fruits today. Lots of bread, just going to go stale. So take it with you. Oh, so let's just pray real quick. Dear Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you for everything, Lord. This is awesome to see us moving in our gifts, Lord, and we can't wait to see what you're going to do here at our church. In Jesus' name, amen. Remember, Jesus loves you. I love you, and you are awesome. Munsaka, any other comments online? Okay. So we're good? All right. Just leave a thing there. As anybody watches it, leave comments, and I'll get back to them on later on. Okay? Yeah, you can cut off now. Yeah.